G'day and welcome to another bottom-up boats splicing video. Today we take a look at how to create a soft shackle. To complete today's splice you'll need your Sharpie pen, a fid, some whipping twine and a needle, a tape measure and some tape, your scissors, and around about a meter of 3 to 4 mil single braid rope. Step 1 is to take your tape measure and to make a mark around 30 centimeters from the end of the line. This is the length of rope you'll need to create the diamond knot to complete the soft shackle. You'll notice that I've taped the end of the lines to stop them fraying as you complete the shackle. So there's our first mark at 30 centimeters. Before you get onto the splice, you want to make a second mark at the midpoint of your line. While we create that mark, take a few seconds to look at the reference table, which is a good calculator to help you know how much line you'll need for various diameters of shackle and thicknesses of ropes, including how much you need for the crucial diamond knot. With the two marks created, you want to take your line and put it into your fid. And then take the fid and put it in at the midpoint knot. It's always good to scrunch up the rope a little bit to make it easier to get the fid to enter into the line. With the fid going in, make sure you then slide it through, bringing the fid out at the first mark that you created, indicating the length of the tail you need for the diamond knot. The next step in the process is to pull the fid and the inner core through, and then place the fid into the loop at the top of the soft shackle, which will ultimately become the locking component of the shackle. Pulling the inner and outer cores tight, and then normalizing the outer core by pulling it away from the fid. This basically completes the top half of the soft shackle, and we'll now move on to the bottom half and the diamond knot. Once again, taking your Sharpie pen, you want to find where the inner core exits the outer and place a mark. The next step is to slide the outer core up slightly to allow us to complete the locking mechanism at the bottom of the shackle. Removing the fid from the top and placing the outer core in the fid. The next step is then to pull the line in on itself at that inner core mark. It's a good tip to make it a couple of millimeters, maybe half a centimeter for this thickness of rope inside of your mark to make sure that the shackle is even in length due to the loop that we put in at the other end. This effectively completes the splicing part of the shackle, and we now need to move on to the diamond knot. Lay this soft shackle out horizontally as shown and take the top tail and pull it straight down, looping it over the top of the bottom one, pulling it tight. You then want to take the second tail and loop it over on itself and then place the loop on top of the first loop that you created. Let's just have a look at that again. Take the second tail, loop it over on top of itself and place it on top of the first one. You then take the bottom tail and you want to pass it under, then over, and then under, and then over two, pulling the rope tight to create the first part of the knot. You'll see that I'm putting my finger into the middle of the knot. What you need to do is keep that hole, but tighten and slide the knot down on itself to bring it back to the point where we created the initial slice. So just work it down there, but keep that center hole free, which is required to complete the next part of the knot. Keeping your fingers in that central hole, you then want to take one of the tails and wrap it all the way around the back of the knot, bringing it over the two tails where they exit the splice and then up through the central hole. So it's around the back and up through the central hole. Then take the second tail, doing the same thing, wrapping it around the back and then up through that central hole. Getting the two ends normalized together, then the knot is basically complete. Next phase in the knot requires some patience and a little practice. What you need to do is now tease the knot all the way down to where we created the splice. Keeping it quite loose, but taking the lines and then working them through the knot a little bit at a time to ensure that the knot tightens where we created that splice. It can be a little bit fidgety, but with a little bit of practice and taking your time, you'll basically tighten the knot up on itself, slowly working each of the lines separately around through the various phases of the knot, creating the two tails at the same length as you pull them tight. The overall strength of the soft shackle does depend on how tight your knot is. So at this point, if you're not happy with how you've been able to tighten the knot itself, you could always take a pair of pliers, grabbing each of the tails independently and really swing on it to ensure that it's as tight as possible. You can now open up the top end of the shackle, putting the diamond knot through it and over on top of itself, and you then normalize the outer core round, which effectively creates the locking part of the soft shackle. The final step in the process is to take your scissors and cut off the ends of the rope that was used to create the diamond knot, and then to get your lighter and to burn the end of the rope to stop it fraying and make sure that there's no issues with your diamond knot. That effectively completes our soft shackle, sliding and tightening on itself. To release the shackle, you just tease open the end loop, taking the diamond knot out. Then when you need to put it back in, obviously opening it up and putting the knot in and then normalizing the outer core over the inner. Depending on what you use the soft shackle for, there is one optional step that you can do. If the shackle is under load but is being undone and done up regularly, maybe say on your jib sheets, it's good to build a quick release mechanism. So if you pull the inner core as far through as possible and then take a thin piece of whipping twine and just thread it straight through that inner core. Taking the two ends and making sure that they're of the same length, you can then slide the shackle back down on top of itself and place a small knot in the end of the whipping twine. This inner core is really useful in helping you open up the shackle, as I said, especially when it's under load. Just grab the end and give it a pull and it creates that loop out, which you can then put the diamond knot through before normalizing it on itself to close the shackle again. If you found this video useful, don't forget to leave us a like. And you can always click on the bottom up boats icon in the top of the screen to subscribe to the channel, making sure that you get notified of future videos as they're released.